Hi everyone, it's Erin Scott here. So let's take a look at our solstice. Okay, so I'm recording this the night before the solstice. It's the 20th of December 2019. And I am recording this from the Northern Hemisphere. So we're diving into our shortest day of the year, our longest night, tomorrow, December 21st. And you can see the exact point. I put in 11:20 here because in Astro.com, this is when the sun pops into 000 Capricorn. But I will say that in my ephemeris that I have, it actually showed 11:19. But 11:20 it is, according to Astro.com. So let's keep that. And I'm showing it Eastern US time. But what we're going to be looking at here in this analysis is not just the energetics for the solstice, winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, summer solstice in the southern hemisphere, but in fact, a signature that is going to be laying out and creating a narrative for us for the entire year. So this particular shortest day of the year, longest night of the year in the northern hemisphere is, it's a restarting point. The day after the solstice, the days start to get longer and longer. So it's a new hemicycle, but it's certainly a year-to-year cycle, an annual cycle from solstice to solstice, right? So what we're looking at here is not just the astrology for the day, not even close. The signature that I'm about to talk to you about is playing out in the 2020 cycle, okay? Now, there are a few things here. Let me just start by saying, first of all, let me have you look at my screensaver here because we have this beautiful snowy scene, but it's bright. I picked this specifically because it is clearly in the dead of winter, but it is a bright day. So even though in the northern hemisphere it's our longest night, we are in fact moving into a new cycle of longer days and more sun. Saying that, our friends in Australia and our friends throughout the southern hemisphere countries and areas of the world, especially though Australia, they are in the midst of quite a lot of activity there. They are breaking heat records and fires are still blazing from what I understand. So indeed, this is their longest day tomorrow. And so I think we should all send some blessings and good wishes for rain, for coolness, to help them, to help the land, to help the people, to help the animals. With that being said, let's start to look at this signature. Now, what I want to tell you is this. I pulled up 2 additional asteroids, ones that I typically don't pull up, but I was called to do it when I was pulling up this chart. This asteroid is the asteroid Compassion. It's literally called Compassion. That's the name of it. This asteroid is called Karma. Again, that was the name it was given. Okay? So I want you to understand that we have planets, we have the nodal axis, we have the minor planet Sedna, we have some other asteroids, and then we have Compassionate and Karma. Why? Because it called and because it's going to play a key role in this year ahead for all of us. So let's take a look. We're going to start down here. Now keep in mind, the chart that we're looking at here is the date and the time, the exact point of the solstice, of the point when the sun moves into Capricorn. The new cardinal season begins. But this is an Eastern US chart, yeah? So the ascendant is according to that place. So it's not going to be the same for all of you throughout the world. But the positions of the planets are, and the relationships between the planets are. So that's what we're focusing on here. Let's start with the sun entering Capricorn. Very simple, right? So as the sun enters that 0-degree Capricorn point for its 30-degree transit over the next month ahead, what does that mean? Well, certainly it indicates right off the bat that is the focus. It's the highlight or the spotlighted narrative that we are all playing out. So the spotlighted narrative is Capricorn and Saturn. So this has to do with global politics, corporate structures, global financial systems, etc. Okay? In our own lives, it talks about our career, our work, our desire for recognition, our social selves, our externalized personas, and as we relate to society as a whole. But it certainly discusses work and career. Okay, those are implicated here. Now, how it distinctly impacts you depends on your own blueprint. It depends on your natal chart. But in a generalized sense, when the sun goes through every year, when it goes through Capricorn, this is the natural kind of place where our mind is focused, or that the themes will come up that need attention. So that's what's going on. And of course, what we have here are several planets that are key. We have the South Node here at 8 degrees, which is important. We have Jupiter here at 4 degrees. Currently, Saturn is at 20. It's approaching its 22-degree conjunction point with Pluto. So Saturn and Pluto will become conjunct on the 12th of January, the same day that Uranus will station direct, right? So as all of you know who have already ordered your 2020 analysis, it's a big year. For those of you who are interested in ordering yours, you can find the links below, okay? Now, so we are already starting to feel the impact of this focused transformation point, right? And we've all been feeling and experiencing the transformation since 2008. Since Pluto has been going through Capricorn, this is a time of great dissolution, destruction, crumbling, and disintegration of the patriarchy that we've known, the systems that have been built in an unsustainable manner, that have not been properly foundationed to give us correct alignment. So anything that is unnaturally or partitioned and not kind of holistically foundationed, given a proper foundation, is collapsing. The systems that we know globally are collapsing, So we've been feeling that. There is a point in January where it's going to be more of a poignant time for us, each of us as individuals, again, depending on your blueprint. With that being said, with the sun going through here, lots of focus, and there's going to be literal spotlights on each one of these functions. So what do we have at this point of the solstice? Well, the sun will be conjunct Jupiter at 4 degrees, and Jupiter will be conjunct South Node at 8 degrees. Now let's talk about that, because the sun conjuncting both Jupiter and the South Node are talking about rigidly held, old, existing belief systems and ideas about truth that are connected to the government structures, the political structures, the corporate structures, the banking structures that are in place. And what that can look like is an exacerbation of the grip of the powerful, of the elite, of those in power. Okay? So this can, for some, this is an exasperation and an exaggeration of this gripping to the existing power structures. And anything that has been collapsing, there's almost now a doubling down, which we've been seeing. We see it in all the news cycles. So with that being said, what do we also have here? Well, we have the South Node at 8 degrees. 8 is the number associated with power. It's the number associated with wealth. In nature, 8 is the lemon scat. It's the infinity of as without, so within, as above, so below, the feedback loop, the flow that goes out and then comes back in, karma. right? So there's a karmic narrative, the flow that goes out and gets returned, because that's how energy works. And indeed, number 8, everybody, the 8 that we have for the South Node and the North Node is the Taurus in a way. The way the Taurus form operates, the way it moves, it goes in and goes out. It's very much like a figure 8. And that is power. And so the deal with 8 here, there's no accident. There's full alignment with the fact that things are exactly where they are for the signature of this year ahead through the solstice analysis, okay? So with regards to the sun conjuncting belief systems and old power dynamics, that shows us that, or that tells us, that certainly indicates that part of the signature for the year ahead, for the next 12-month cycle, will be contending with people's rooted belief systems with regards to a lot of it, with regards to cognitive dissonance issues, gripping to, altering their belief systems in order to fit their actions, which are defending a need to grip to the power that they feel that they're losing. So there's a lot of altered or skewed belief systems that are going to be rising, that might be exacerbated in the year ahead. Now, for other people, because different people are at different layers and different levels of their growth and evolution, their consciousness, each individual's consciousness is at a different level. So for a lot of people, what this Jupiter here is going to be doing, you have to understand, if you look at the sun, it's at the beginning, it's following Jupiter. Jupiter is following the South Node. South Node is following Saturn. Saturn is following Pluto. There's a narrative here. Justice and truth is following the old patterns that are being reconstructed and indeed transformed. That's what's happening here. So the year ahead is going to be big change. But for some people, there is a delusional aspect of the mind. There's a cognitive dissonance that's activated. The belief system will be very staunch and rigid and loud, very kind of exuberant, and that's because of that conjunction of Jupiter on that South Node. But for other people, justice and truth is following the stuff that's going on. It's chasing it. It's coming after it. And indeed, what's going to happen very soon is that these are going to switch. These are going to switch, meaning the South Node transits clockwise and Jupiter is transiting counterclockwise. These are going to cross each other. And indeed, that South Node is going to enter into Sagittarius. In fact, let's look when that is. I have my 2020 ephemeris here, everybody. Hold on just one second. Let me take a look at the exact date. Just give me a minute here. Okay. So this is the deal, everybody. The nodal axis is going to be moving into Sagittarius Gemini on or around the 6th of May. 6th of May. So what that means is that we still have 5 months of this South Node gripping. Again, this is old patterns, or rather existent patterns, but existent patterns that need to transmutate, existent patterns that need to release, existent patterns that need to evolve. And what's the evolution of this Capricorn Saturnian orientation? The mother, the moon, the emotions, the intuitive knowing, the intuitive wisdom, the family, connection, emotional connection, humanity, and indeed compassion. So where is compassion? And by the way, look at the number 8 here. This is not just compassion, weak compassion. This is number 8. So this is the power of the emotional, intuitive, right brain, right? And it's also the power of the feminine, by the way. So what's going to be naturally activated over the course of certainly the next 5 months. But again, this is the signature for the year. And what we have here is the power of woman, the power of the feminine quality sets, you know? Compassion, care, nurturing, and all of these are powerful qualities. They've been dismissed in the human mythology of modern human, you know. So let's look at compassion. Let's look at compassion. So where is compassion? First of all, you know what? Let's do this. I apologize. I'm a little bit all over the map, but there's a lot to talk about. I want to pull up the Sabian symbol for the nodal axis. So let's first pull up the North Node. Actually, let me go to the full explication here from Dane Rudier, okay? So let's first go to 8 to 9 degrees Cancer. And we're going to look at this kind of encoded growth narrative. Now, again, keep in mind that throughout the 2020 cycle, that North Node is going to be moving, and it's going to be directing us into varied and spiraled and further evolved points of growth. But this is the signature. So 8 to 9 degrees Cancer. Very interesting. A small naked girl bends over a pond trying to catch a fish. The first naive quest for knowledge and for ever elusive understanding of life. Purity in understanding. That's the key phrase here. I'm going to read this quickly. The small naked girl symbolizes the innocent and spontaneous mind as yet unclothed in cultural patterns and unrestrained by don't, trying to satisfy its curiosity about what seems mysterious and fleeting. In a sense, the pond is an infant's mind with very limited scope of consciousness, yet eagerly reaching out to catch the swift and elusive first realizations of the meaning of life. At this fourth stage, we are confronted with the nascent curiosity about knowledge, a curiosity which makes the little mind reach out in spontaneity rather than merely imitate the elders. That's important there. Whenever a person is confronted with the symbol, he or she should realize, or rather it is optimal to realize, that there is much value indeed in simply reaching out with a pure and unconditioned mind to the most elementary experiences which natural life offers us. The key here is purity and understanding. Okay? Now, perfect. There's perfection to this. There's something else I want to say here, everybody, too. Let me pull this over. There's something else I want to say here. Cancer is a water sign, right? This is an earth sign, but it's really about built structures, the form, the focused energy it takes to form and build and achieve. Climb up the ladder, certainly, and achieve recognition, certainly. But there's a structural element here. You know, office buildings can be imagined with Capricorn. But what do we have here where the growth arc is, where the mastery level is? Well, water. Water. And the planet, the oxygen level in the oceans is waning. And the plastics in the ocean, the microbeads in the ocean, much, you know, not just including the outright garbage that is filling up massive areas of oceans throughout the planet, but microbeads, the toxification of water, algae blooms. Excuse me, let me take a sip of my drink. This is a big deal, everybody. A lot of you listening to my voice already know this, but for those that don't, learn about it, because it is becoming a crisis point. Water is going to play a massive narrative for us, play a massive role. for the human story throughout this year and the years to come. Rising sea levels, reduced amounts of clean water, even rain has been tested to have toxins in it, which, by the way, completely unsurprising. That's something that I think a lot of people have known for a long time, but actually just recently, just today, there was an article about it. So toxification of water is massive. Why? Because water holds story, it holds narratives, it holds memory, it holds energy. So whatever the story is, whether it's clean, healthy, whole, or whether it's toxic, restricted, and skewed, that's going to be the expression then on the planet and in the human being. Why? Because we hold 70% water plus, 70% at least water in the human body, which matches the number here on the planet. We are connected, perfectly aligned. We are nature. So the point is water is a massive point of growth. Clean water, detoxified water, not just of earth, not just of our waterways, but of your body, everybody, of your body, your physicality. There's a need to purge and clean and clear old past woundings. And for a lot of you, for most of us, I would say even for all of us, there's mother archetype woundings there. It's always there. The mother, unfortunately, has been burdened with a lot of the wound story that gets projected upon her, because mother is our first knowing in this life. We come from her. It's the first interaction of nurturance, etc. So you have to understand the cleaning of water on body, for body and planet, for your emotions, for your psyche. It's a big narrative here, all right? Now, beautiful narrative here. Now, let's take a look at the patterns then. So we're moving into a purity in understanding. Now, if we go down to 8 to 9 degrees Cap, okay. An angel carrying a harp. Okay, this is going to be interesting, everybody. All right, an angel carrying a harp. This is the power dynamic that is linked to the corporate and political structures that is gripping. Everybody take a breath and read what I'm going to read this, but I want you to understand this symbolically. An angel carrying a harp. There's a religious narrative that's linked, tied to the political structures here. Do you understand? But it's part of what needs to be released. And it's part of a belief system that people are adopting. Okay? So an angel carrying a harp, the revelation of the spiritual meaning and purpose of the core to any life situation. And you can, I wonder if I want to read it. Yeah, let's read it. This picture simply says that heaven is within us. All we have to do is be open and listen to the total harmony of life, a harmony in which we play a part that is necessary to the completeness and meaning of the whole. In order to do this, we have to surrender our separative ego consciousness and flow with the universal current, which to the religiously minded person is the will of God. So you have to understand this will of God is tied to the political and corporate structures and the powerful, those in power. That's what we're talking about here. It's tied. The will of God is tied to the narrative here. It's part of what's being destructed. It's part of what's being rebuilt. It's part of what has to be rebuilt. And it's part of the justice that's coming after it. And again, it's going to go through a crossover point. So at some level, in fact, in May, we're going to have this South Node pop out of this narrative and move into a new one. Now, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is all about belief systems. And so when that South Node for the next 18 months after May starts moving through that point, everybody, you have to realize there's going to be a lot of people, again, gripping to old belief systems, established belief systems, and claiming that their truth is the truth. All right? Just hang on and hold your own clarity. For you to stay grounded and clear is key to the cycle that we are emerging into here. So that I'm going to end it there, the will of God. That's what that's about. All right, now I want to look here. Let's look at compassion. Compassion is this asteroid that I was really had the insight to pull up. It's in, importantly, perfectly, it's in Libra, the sign of Libra. So compassion in Libra is about having compassion for people, having compassion for different people, the dynamics between people, and compassion for the need to bring harmony between demographics of people or between individuals. Let's take a look at this. I want to take a peek at this 26 to 27 degree point in Libra. Here we go. This is very interesting. This is beautiful, everybody. This is the symbol. So you're going to notice it says Libra 27 degrees, but this is the correct degree. It's between 26:01 and 27 degrees. That's what we're looking at for the compassion point. An airplane sails high in the clear sky. A consciousness able to transcend the conflicts and pressures of the personal life. Okay? Down here, the key phrase, transcendent realization. So, let me just say this. The growth process for this year for all of us when it comes to compassion is about transcendent realization. It's about seeing the higher view. It's about accessing your higher self. It's about understanding from a higher perspective that compassion is natural. It's nature's way. Why? Because it's collaborative, not competitive. It's the immature ecosystems that are competitive, everybody. It's the mature ecosystems who have learned, these ecosystems that have learned over millennia, that have become collaborative. Okay? So clarity is going to bring the compassion. Coming from the higher self is going to bring the compassion naturally. Of course it would. It's beautiful. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is the moon. Look at the moon here. The moon at 900 Scorpio. Okay, so what does this say for our year ahead, everybody? The moon is what matters to us. It's what has meaning to us. On the collective scale for all of us, there's a thematic with, well, what matters is truth and transformation. Moon in Scorpio. What matters is truth and transformation. I want the truth. I want to see underneath what's in the shadow, and I want to transmutate that. I want to bring it into the light. Okay? Also, what's going to matter is really intimately connecting and knowing the truth of the other. And of course, how we know the truth of the other is understanding that they're a reflection of self. So we understand the self through the other. Okay, so it's always a reflection. It's always a direct mirror. So when we go deep into the other, we go deep within the self. But you have to own that, though, as indeed a reflection. There's actually much more of a conversation we could have about that. But it's important to realize that depth and truth and transformation and power is going to be up. It's going to matter. But it's at 900. This is an emphasis on just the number 9. Number 9 simply is inner wisdom. It's certainly the inner light of the hermit, in the tarot. 9 is spiritual completion. It's chapters completing, spiritual lessons. It's also the number of the humanitarian. And what I get with this is that what will matter to people will be transformative agents for humanity. More and more people will simply rise in whatever way is appropriate, by the way. Not everybody is here to scream, shout, and be heard even. You know, we all have our own blueprint, and we all have our own way of bringing change or modeling that which is correct. And the only way to do that, the correct way, the aligned way, is to do your blueprint, to do you. And everybody has their own beautiful, perfect signature. And trust me when I tell you, there are multitudes of very quiet, internalized processes that create the necessary transformation of self, but also of the world. Because when you change the self, when you change the inner, simultaneously, the externalized reality shifts. It does that because we're connected by a web of consciousness, a field of consciousness. This is a web of life we're part of. We're not individual strands randomly correlated. It's correlated in synchronicity. Okay, so understand that a theme for this year will be for a lot of people to step up as transformational humanitarians. It's almost like the number 9 is saying the ego is even going to drop away, or even any fear about something that I was thinking about doing is going to drop away. Because the focus is really on what's needed for people, what's needed for the collective, what's needed to wake people up. That's the other thing. You know, Scorpio is the investigator, the detective, the psychologist, the metaphysician, okay? The psychic intuitive. So these are the people to help transform the psychosis within the psyche. So that's going to be a big driver for a lot of folks, okay? Interestingly, the part of now I have to say, the part of fortune in this chart really is specific to this particular chart, which is New York time. But for those of you on the Eastern US or Eastern Canada in this time zone, the part of fortune is also here, which is interesting because according to this chart, all of these are located in the second house, which is the house of your needs, your values, and indeed your earned income as well, right? This is the house of your own value of self and what you value in order to help yourself live and survive, including the money that you make through the work that you do. So the fact is that for my Eastern US or Eastern North America folks, which are on this time zone, compassion, the moon, the part of fortune, and Mars are all located in this sector, which is very indicative of movement in the work that you really love, and possibly a flow, a new flow of money, of income, could definitely be the case, especially with this too. 14 in the I Ching is affluence. So it is interesting, okay? But everybody, look, Mars is also here. Mars in Scorpio, for God's sake. I mean, this is a warrior for truth. The sense that I had gotten recently, you know, over the last couple months, is that the people that have been more quiet, timid, shy, are going to be finding their voice more readily, more easily. And I have to tell you, this signature of Mars in Scorpio for this cycle ahead is definitely indicative of that. And what do we have? Look at this. Mars is sextiling that Pluto point at 22 degrees, where the conjunction of Pluto-Saturn, that focused transformation, is happening. This is also a maturity of one's power. That's another aspect here that's being hit or catalyzed at this point in the middle of January. So the point is, this Mars in Scorpio sextiling the ruler of Scorpio, this is the ancient ruler, this is the modern ruler of Scorpio. And these are sextile, they're connected. So this deep psychological transformation is happening to change the systems, the societal systems that are broken, partial, and collapsing, and indeed toxic, amoral. They're lacking a moral compass here. radically so. Okay, thus what we have here, purity. Okay, purity, yet at number 8, strength. The other thing that we have here at this point of our solstice is Mercury with Pallas Athena, everybody. And I think that this is pretty fantastic because 19 degrees Sag, where Mercury is, this is the mind. So where the mind will naturally be oriented and focused over the course of this year, yes, it will change. It's moving through the year, but keep in mind, this is kind of the generalized signature of the energies for this year. And Mercury here will keep people focused on what is truth. What is truth? Okay. And also it will keep the mind focused on belief systems, teachers, and again, possibly discernment around what is truth. It's conjunct Pallas Athena, the asteroid. And this is the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of war. There's an empowered feminine quality and an empowered feminine reality or a narrative that is going to be playing out. There will be more powerful women coming to the fore, but I have to tell you though, what we have here is Mercury and Pallas Athena squaring a karmic Neptune. So even if Neptune were not at 16 degrees, even if Neptune were not at a karmic degree, the square of Neptune to Mercury is challenging, to say the least. Why? Because this naturally evokes fantasy. It evokes delusion. It evokes lying and deception. Okay? So for those that have this in their natal chart, this encoding in their natal chart, they could be a fantastic fantasy writer. For other people that have this activation, depending on their choices and their moral compass, this looks like trouble with lying, difficulty telling the truth. Why? Because the mind is popping out very often, very frequently into delusion, into confusion, into spiritual narratives. And there can be a conflation of topics and a lack of discernment. And what we have here is a 16 degree, karmic degree Neptune. So issues of spirituality karmically will be coming up. This is a testing point. So this is a signature for this year ahead. Lying and deception will be activated. Just again, this is for each and every one of you to hold your own ethical tether in place. This is for each of you to be mindful of your own mental processes and reactionary responses. Be present moment oriented, be curious, go into self-inquiry, stop projecting, because this can look like a lot of projection as well. So we don't want to do that. We want to own our own mind, own our own thoughts, and understand that they come from a particular storyline. For you, they come from your blueprint. Your blueprint has a storyline in it. And you have to understand what the wound sets are that trigger the reactionary patterns that you have. There are reasons for everything that you think and everything that you feel and everything that you do. So when you understand what those narratives are that are driving certain patterns, then you can recalibrate because you can understand what the growth arc is for those wound patterns. It's very important, everybody. Accountability is key. It's absolutely key, vitally important for as we progress as humans here, okay? Now, with that all being said, we also have Venus here in Aquarius, okay? So Venus in Aquarius, our values, our sense of self-value, our sense of our orientation toward love and beauty and the arts, all of that is activated. Money is also activated. So what does this say? As we enter this year, Venus is now held in the Aquarian narrative, meaning our value system for the year ahead has a signature that is very tied to Aquarian, Uranian narratives, technology, humanitarian in its orientation. But you have to understand, Aquarius and the ruler Uranus are complex. These are complex narratives. They cannot be simplified. When we're looking at Aquarius, we're looking at an evolutionary process of the human condition, from the barbaric past to the evolved, refined future. And I say that past and future in quotes, as a lot of my clients know, right? Because there is no time, according to many, and according to people that have had experiences really accessing the source field, there is no time in the source field. It's a human construct that we experience here in this plane. So we experience past and we experience present, we experience future, but the truth is it's all simultaneous anyway. Okay? Thus, the importance of us healing the self in the present moment. Because what happens when we do that? We heal these parallel life streams that we're living. And what does that do? It helps heal the collective. Okay? So it's critical. I mean, how else to say it? But the point is this, with Venus, with the signature of value system in Aquarius, it is complex, because what's going to come up, everybody, is that a lot of individuals are going to be accessing, feeling, remembering a bit of a trauma signature about their sense of self-value, meaning there can be some self-flagellation, there can be some self-devaluation going on, there can be memories coming up perhaps from the past, your current life that you've lived now, that brought up how you felt not of value in this life, maybe mother, maybe father, right? That was maybe the trigger that got catalyzed from your internalized blueprint. Possibly there was abuse, etc. This can be abusive love. It can be. It can also be focused on the value of digital money, for example, because we all know that the financial systems are changing, right? So paper money will, be a thing of the past at some point, and digital money, everything online, is going to be the way of the future. So money in Uranus Aquarius, that's activated, but also a bit of a traumatized aspect or sense of self is also going to arise, and it's going to create some issues. In fact, if we look here, there's a square. In fact, it's exactly at 2 degrees. So we have a 2-degree Uranus-ruled Venus squaring 2 degrees Uranus. There's definitely going to be a catalyzation of financial shifts and changes happening. And by the way, this is not all negative. It's not necessarily negative. There are going to be opportunities coming forward. For people that are awake and aware, there's going to be opportunities happening. For Venus in this air sign of Aquarius, there is going to be a desire to lighten your load, lighten your possessions, lighten what you have. So anything like, for example, people with storage units, or possibly not people that are hoarders, because they might be so deeply weighted down by their psyche and their conditions that it's going to be more difficult. But I have to tell you, for a lot of you listening to my voice, you're going to understand, and you're already feeling a desire to be lighter, physically lighter, lose weight in the body system, but also live in a more simple and clean and refined way. Because refinement is another energetic signature and a narrative to Aquarius and Uranus, okay? So this square is going to create conditions that will maybe prompt a discernment and a lightening of the possessions that you have. There could be sudden things that are going on with technology. See, I definitely see that happening this year, everybody, okay? I definitely see that happening. And the fact is that with Uranus squaring Venus exactly at 2 degrees, let's talk about that too. And it's part of a T-square here with Varuna, this asteroid Varuna. Confidence, individuality, creativity, and also efforts in regards to Gaia, the earth, connected to values, right? So with Venus in Uranus, certainly there's going to be a lot of people valuing humanity more. The connection here and the connection here, this T-square is very activated. So it's a lot of prompted action. So a value to humanity connected to a new confidence developing for the creative efforts of you as an individual that is linked to conditions shifting and changing and opportunity for circumstances to present opportunities out of the blue. Okay? So take it all with just let it all in and keep your mind open. Try not to define too tightly because opportunities might show up that you'll miss if you're defining things too tight. Let's see. Let's look at this really quickly too. Karma. Let's take a look at the karma signature as well. Now, the important thing about karma is that it's sitting here at 28 degrees Pisces, and it's conjunct Chiron, and it's conjunct Black Moon Lilith. All of these are together. Karma, woundings, and devaluation. Okay? Squaring that 0 degree cardinal entrance of the sun, right? And it's also squaring Jupiter. Now, before we talk about the dynamics, let's take a peek at the Sabian symbol here. So let's go to 28 to 29. Here we go. Amazing. Light breaking into many colors through a prism. The analytical power of the mind necessary for the formulation of life processes in their many aspects. Differentiation is a key word. Cycles of existence begin in unity and end in what I have called multi-unity. At the stage of consummation, the many individual differences are totaled. They constitute a sum. Within that sum, a unified total. The inevitability of the future process of differentiation is implied because every cycle leaves a mass of waste products slowly returning to the unconscious state of chemical matter, of humus. What the symbol tells us is that unity will always break again into multiplicity. The prism is always there. There is no absolute unity. If anything could be called absolute, it is the relationship between the one and the many. This is true. This fourth stage symbol of the concluding fivefold symbol of phases points to the fundamental type of operation in all modes of existence. The most beautiful and seemingly everlasting experience of unity will in time be superseded by the need to attend to a multiplicity of details. Existence implies differentiation. So this is unity in diversity. That's what this is talking about here. A light breaking into many colors. Light is who we are. It's life. And the many colors is the differentiation, the diversity of life on this animate planet. So this karma point is interesting. Let me just think about this for a minute. Because the thing is, the first thing that I saw when I first pulled up the chart, I'm going to shrink this down again. The first thing that I really recognized, everybody, was the square of that Sun Jupiter to these points here, Karma and Chiron, you know, and Lilith, right? Lilith is squaring all of this right on point as well. And what that indicates is that throughout this year, yes, there's going to be struggle. There's going to be a bit of a war. And the thing that really is the strong indication for me is that the sun entering Capricorn squaring karma. Well, what does that say? It says that the Capricornian identity is meeting karma this year. There is karmic conflict. There's a karmic confrontation. Many karmic confrontations, I sense. Do you understand? So the identity, the Capricorn identity, is confronting karma. And it's also confronting the wounded healer. Chiron is a master teacher. Chiron is a master healer. And indeed, connected to Lilith is people rising on behalf of the disenfranchised, the disempowered, demographics of people who have been devalued. That's what we're talking about here. So there's going to be a lot of people rising karmically as teacher healers, sensitive to the disenfranchised, devalued, and denied populations on this planet. And you better believe that there's going to be a confrontation to that Capricorn identity, whether it's the political leader, whether it is the corporate head. It doesn't matter. So, and by the way, in your personal life, this can also be a confrontation with Father, depending on what the dynamics are with your life, your blueprint, and your the relationship that you have with your father. Okay. So, very interesting. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to look at. I think that's everything, everybody. So, yeah, so what I will say is this. I'm going to have another video coming out that's going to be more, it's not astrological. It's going to be what I had done years ago at Findhorn, and I've done every year since, which is kind of a solstice spread, I guess is what I would call it. But it is an annual tradition, and I am going to have another video coming out on the solstice. I think by the time I post this tonight, it's going to be a little bit late. I might wait and post this first thing in the morning on the solstice, but essentially right after this video, there's going to be another one coming. And I'll also let you know that I am going to have sales happening this weekend. So essentially solstice weekend. You can find all the links below the video. I send you all much love for your solstice, for your Christmas or your holiday, whatever you enjoy celebrating. And there'll be more coming because we have a lot that's emerging. We're going to have a new moon eclipse occurring right after Christmas. We're going to have the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn coming up in July or January. So I'll have a couple more goodies coming forward for you as well. In the meantime, I send you much love. Bye-bye.